So this is my ultrasound from December 28th, 2012. That was 18 weeks and 4 days. It was pretty standard, I think, to wait till 19 or 20 weeks. But my mother-in-law was coming to visit for Christmas, and I was afraid that if I had it while she was there, she would want to come in the room, and we didn't get along very well. So we waited a few days early before the normal 19, 20 week ultrasound scan. I had been sick for the first few weeks of the pregnancy. So it was unusual because my first baby was not a hitch. This one, there's an ultrasound here from, I think, October of that year, when I was just a few weeks along, like I think maybe 10 weeks. And we went in and checked everything out to make sure everything was okay, because I had been really sick. And I wanted to make sure the baby was okay, that I hadn't gotten dehydrated. And I don't, for some reason, the video, that's not working. But this one was the general scan where they tell you your due date and they make sure everything's okay with the baby. I had been taking a biology class at University of Southern Maine, or Southern Maine Community College, I think. No, it was USM, University of Southern Maine. And I had some general idea of some developmental stuff. Not much. But so I'm sitting through this scan, and I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea what she was seeing on the screen. And looking back at it now, I was like, is his heart beating? So the first ultrasound, we were just checking to make sure everything was okay at about 10 or 12 weeks, and he was so little. But if this one, we were debating in the car whether we were going to find out the gender. And she was just poking the ultrasound wand all over me and checking things, and it seemed like she was taking a long time. But it never occurred to me. It didn't cross my mind once. We were just waiting for good news, and the biggest concern we had was, are we going to find out? Because we didn't find out on my first baby and my first son. We found out gender 5 minutes after he was born, because they laid him on my belly, and it didn't occur to me to ask because I was so excited that he was out. And after 36 hours of labor, I was just so happy that he was out. But so we were trying to figure out if we were going to find out this day. And so right here, they're checking the nuchal fold. So I'll move me out of the way here because I put the measurements down here in the bottom of the screen. The nuchal fold was a few millimeters too big. And so they knew there was something wrong there. The nuchal fold is like at the back of the neck from the skull. It's a sign of a bunch of different disorders that babies can have. And so they measured it, and it was like 5.2 millimeters. And then this is really obvious too now that I watch it back. It's Joe had a cleft palate. You can see it right there. You can see the opening. The triangle of his mouth was wide open. And she zooms in onto here a lot. You can see it there really clear. And actually types in nose and lips, so it should be a sweet little bow shape. And instead there's a gap there where his lip didn't join and wasn't connected to the roof of his mouth. And I had no idea that she was seeing any of this. She didn't say a word. It felt like such a long time where she hadn't said anything for a really, really long time. any of that means. No idea. There's his heart beating. So they can see on this as well that the insertion point where the cord goes into his belly, he had what's called an omphalocele, which means that the parts of his belly actually developed. They normally, I think they start on the outside and then they go inside or something like that, but parts of his belly were actually developing. They hadn't gone inside his body and they were developing in the cord, which is fixable if everything else isn't messed up. I see it. I can see it. So this is the insertion point. Of the cord. Again, I don't know what it's supposed to look like. I just know that there was portion of what was supposed to be inside was still on the outside, and it wasn't developing where it was supposed to, which is a sign of trisomy 13. The increased nuchal fold is also a sign of trisomy 13. Cleft palate is also a sign of trisomy 13. So there were a lot of markers. And at this point, it felt like we had been there for 20, 25 minutes, but according to the clock there, it was eight minutes. And so the next one is from February, but I thought I had been under that ultrasound for at least 25 minutes. And I made a joke. I said, "Are you seeing 10 fingers and 10 toes?" And she put her hand on my leg and she said, "There are some problems with your baby." I see it. I can see it. So this is the insertion point. Of the cord. Again, I don't know what it's supposed to look like. I just know that there was portion of what was supposed to be inside was still on the outside, and it wasn't developing where it was supposed to, which is a sign of trisomy 13. The increased nuchal fold is also a sign of trisomy 13. Cleft palate is also a sign of trisomy 13. So there were a lot of markers. And at this point, it felt like we had been there for 20, 25 minutes, but according to the clock there, it was eight minutes. And so the next one is from February, but I thought I had been under that ultrasound for at least 25 minutes. And I made a joke. I said, "Are you seeing 10 fingers and 10 toes?" And she put her hand on my leg and she said, "There are some problems with your baby." And I just seemed like a simple question, like, just tell me there's fingers. Why are you being so weird about it? And then she got up and left the room and came back in with a whole bunch of specialists and a lot of people in lab coats. And they started talking about my fetus, and genetic counselor came in the room. Her name was Renee Shard. And I did some research long after we lost Joe. I did some research on what a genetic counselor's job is actually. They go in the room with the doctors so they can deliver the news and deliver it in a way that's palatable or digestible for new moms and dads and parents. And their job is to basically make it easier for the doctor when he suggests termination, that you won't be completely shocked, because they're there to talk about, they're the genetic counselors in the room to talk about quality of life, life expectancy, and disabilities and needs. So this, as you can see up here, this was before I changed my name to my married name. and we had trouble having his body brought to the funeral home because it didn't match the birth certificate, death certificate didn't match. His name didn't match my name because he was Joe Grayson Morgan and I was Victoria Lineker, and so that added a couple of days delay having his body transported over to the funeral home. I was 35 at the time, so advanced maternal age, what they called it. 18 weeks and 4 days was the estimation of how far along I was. It was December 28th. We had just celebrated our second Christmas with Henry, who was just about to turn 2. My in-laws were on their way the next morning to stay with us for a week. And we had a scare on the first baby. They saw something on an ultrasound and they overreacted, and they told us that he had, I don't even remember the name of the condition they said he had, but that they suggested termination on the first pregnancy as well. And it turned out that they were so off base and so wrong about what was going on. And he was perfectly healthy. There was just a blip. And they told me not to even look up what they had told me they thought my first baby had. And so when they told me there was problems with my second pregnancy, I called back to Newfoundland and just was mad at the doctors. I called home and said, "You're not going to believe this. They're telling me there's a problem with the baby and they're talking about termination, but they're just overreacting. They're so paranoid down here in Maine." And they changed their lives. December 28th, 2012 was probably the last normal day that before was before times, and then everything after that was different.